Welcome to December 19th, 2025. I keep thinking it's solstice today. I think I'm ready. I'm ready for solstice. It does not feel like autumn anymore. Ready for that turning of the light. I wake up and I have some food and then it's dark again. So I'm ready for the returning of the light. I don't actually mind this winter. I'm doing a really good job of wintering. Lots of sleep, lots of naps and everyone else in Europe, everyone takes a lot of time off of work. So my work schedule has been really free and spacious and open. So it's been good for me. I hope everybody out there is having a peaceful as possible holiday time. I know it can get frantic. So we'll open up our study club tonight with the chart of the moment. I love to ground us in where we are right now. And I'm going to put my hands on my heart and ground myself. It's Friday, my favorite day of the week, December 19th, right before we get solstice, right before, look at how close the moon is to the sun there in Sagittarius, right before the new moon in Sagittarius. And we're opening Astrology Study Club together so that we can learn whatever we can learn, absorb whatever we can absorb tonight about astrology. And this is more than just an astrology study club, it's an intuition study club. So I'd like to invite everyone to open whatever channels of clair sentience, clairaudience, clair knowingness as you are safe in our shared circle today, so that as we go through the 2026 astrology, anything that you need to pick up on intuitively is able to come through to you. Your angels, your guides, your ancestors, any beings or mystical juice out there that has your highest intentions at heart, may they come through to give you messages that are inspiring and hopeful. We are going into a year of fire and air, so it's going to be fast and intense. And on one hand, that will impassion a lot of people that have been in their hopelessness, which we've talked about with the Aries world point. But on the other hand, it can feel very discombobulating. We don't have a map for how to deal with this next stage of the future. So we need community and connection and shared experiences more than ever. Trust your intuition, trust your gut, stay informed where you can, and keep working your magic because that's how we do. So I've got this new astrology software here called Astrotheros because Time Passages slash Astrograph does not animate charts, but this one does. So I can move into the future by day, by hour, by week, by month, and it will show you how the planets are moving through the sky, which I think is very, very cool, especially as you're trying to watch how a transit is coming into being and what aspects it's making. So I'm very new to this software. I'm not totally sure how everything in it works yet, but let's just take a look. This is something that is beyond kind of my knowledge. This is the delineation chart, which shows where the planets are in relation to something, but I don't know what it is. The ecliptic axis, I guess. So that's the ecliptic axis that we're on. And Jupiter is the highest in the sky, and the moon right now is the lowest, but I don't know what that means. So just take from that what you will. And then this, you might have seen something like this if you used astro.com before for your chart. It shows this little step ladder next to your natal chart in astro.com. So what this is it's a different kind of graph that shows you what kind of transits are happening. And as you can see, there's quite a lot of squares and conjunctions in this moment, which is a lot of tension and a lot of like there's a challenge in there. We do have some trines as well, but it's a trine to Chiron, like the wounded healer. I guess it's helping us heal our wounds, but we got to go through the icky stuff first. And we've got Jupiter trine Saturn, like Saturn's adding a little extra grinchiness in there. But it's a trine, so it's nice. So if you're feeling like this moment is a little crunchy, look at all those squares. This is one way to kind of look at it. Of course, you can see them in the chart too, because squares and oppositions are red. And this is across most programs. And trines and sextiles are blue and green. So that is one way that these programs try to demonstrate how much challenge or benefit there is in a chart. Right. So, first off, I want to address I didn't see any questions in the event, so we're just going to dive right in. Let's see if I can do this. Yay, I did it. Okay, welcome. We're going to get right into it. So even though this is astrology study club, I wanted to bring this in for reference because all of our mystical practices are connected, right? So numerology 2026 is a number 1 year. 2025 is a 9 year. So we're coming out of a completion year. We're at the end of the journey. We're holding a lot of crap, and next year is a fresh start. And the symbology of number 1 is pioneering, a new beginning, starting new things, being fresh in the world. It's very Aries energy, which is great because we're having lots of Aries energy this year. And the card, the tarot card, the major arcana is the magician. We've got all of our tools to create magic. We have a blank slate, a fresh cauldron that is ready to receive the ingredients of a new future that we want to create. And then we have the ace, which is, the one in the minor arcana. And look at all of these images with a hand reaching out with a gift of that element to bring to you. So, like, this is when you need a miracle, or you have an aha moment, or like you just receive a gift that is not something of your like manifesting. I mean, you might have manifested it, but like you didn't have to like physically work for that gift to come. It's like a gift from the heavens. So it's like taking your first breath. Like you're not like consciously thinking about taking that breath. It's something that happens because it's built into the fabric of the universe and how things are created. So just think of it in this way of like anything that is a new start, anything that is right at the beginning of a journey. It's not zero. I mean, it's 10 technically, but in numerology, they go up to 9 and then start at 1 again. So we really want to work with our magic this year in very intentional ways and in ways that like benefit everyone because we're so connected to everything that we do for ourselves radiates out and helps and connects everyone that we're connected to in our lives. So big year for magic. This is too overwhelming to look at all at once, but I want you to know that I've kind of outlined some of our major transits and retrogrades happening. So this year we have no Mars retrograde. That happens once every other year, but we've got our Venus retrograde August through November, and that will be in Libra and Scorpio. And then we have our 3 Mercury retrogrades this year are all in water signs. So we get our first one in February in Pisces, and that is direct until March 20th and out of the shadow April 9th. So it's really end of February into March is when we're having our Pisces Mercury retrograde. And this is all happening at the same time that we have our solar eclipse. This is only visible in the South Pole, so it's not visible anywhere, but it's very notable still. It's our Aquarius solar eclipse, which is also the Chinese Lunar New Year. And we have Saturn and Neptune conjunct at 0 Aries on February 20th. So the last half of February, and notice the shadow starts February 11th for Mercury retrograde. We have this triple whammy of Mercury retrograde, Neptune, Saturn conjunction in Aries, and eclipse season, because eclipse season happens from 2 weeks before February 17th to 2 weeks after March 3rd. So there's this big like window between February and March of the eclipse season for this year, or the first eclipse season for this year. So as you can see, like up into things will start changing at the end of January when Neptune moves into Aries permanently. It's been in there before, but now it's going in permanently until 2038. So this means that the first, I would say 5 weeks, maybe 4 weeks of the year is a really good time to get things in order that you want to get in order for 2026, because starting in mid-February, everything's going to be a bit chaotic and unsettled and very changeable. So if you want to like start really practical things, like write up a business proposal or um start a new Instagram account, or learn how to do meal prepping this year, or clean out your garage. Anything that you can do that prepares you for future success is really good in this Capricorn, Aquarius, Saturnian season. It's very, very much supported for actually working towards things that we want to do. This could be like organizing your banking, doing investments, anything. It's not so much like start a crazy new routine that you'll never be able to keep up. It's like things that you know are really practical and important to having a more stable like household or work-life balance over the next year. Because starting in February and March, there's going to be quite a lot of disruption. And this is not something you can like predict or prepare for. You know, we don't know what this is. I'm sure some astrologers have some theories. We certainly have a history of a lot of war energy with Aries and Gemini being activated, but we have wars going on in the world constantly. So we're already have the uh, Ukrainian war happening and the Gaza issue, which is on its way to being resolved, hopefully. Um, and so there's always conflict going on. It's just a matter of how this turns out. And the USA chart is very activated. So I'm sure we'll see some disruption in the US. Don't know what that looks like, but that is something that, I mean, I'm sure you're not surprised. The tension in the US has been growing steadily since January of this year. So there's change happening. And when you have change like this on the cosmic level, this is a cosmic redirection. So it's not saying that you are inactive in this. It's that inspiration is coming through you in order to know which is the next action for you to take. And it doesn't have to be something huge on a global scale. It could be something really personal that's healing for you that then ripples out through, the quantum field and helps to heal other things. And I know that's hard to like track and prove, but in my experience, I've been able to feel it, and it does make a difference to take care of your side of the garden, or whatever that saying is. Take care of your side of the street. Um, so our eclipses this year are switching. We've got the nodes still in Virgo and Pisces until later this year. But they're right at the end. Let me see if I can share the first eclipse chart with you. It's always interesting when we have our eclipses in like hovering over two signs. So we've got our February, let's see, where are we? 2025. Boop, 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 boop. That was last one. Thought I was on the wrong year. There we go. February 17th, 2026 is our Aquarius eclipse. And this is because, as you can see on this chart, it's happening right, the moon and the sun are meeting right at the end of Aquarius. This little tick here is what's representing that. Um, but the node is still in Pisces, but it's within, oh my gosh, I forgot. I think it's 11 or 12 degrees. If you have a lunation within 11 or 12 degrees, maybe it's 13 of the nodes, there will be somewhere on planet Earth a visible eclipse because that ecliptic axis is calculated by where those shadows happen. So this is really interesting because the actual lunation is in Aquarius and the north node is in Pisces. And the reason why this is interesting is because during this Virgo Pisces axis, we haven't had any Pisces solar eclipses, only lunar eclipses. So people who have a Pisces north node never really got their solar moment. It was all lunar moments. And that's not to say that they're missing out on something, but it means the whole story isn't really completed until we get 19 years down the line and we have another solar eclipse in Pisces. So that's one of the interesting things about astrology is that even when you have something repeating every 9 years or 18 years, it might not line up exactly right. But anybody who's got late Aquarius or late fixed sign placements are very much going to feel the effects of this. It's a Piscean north node, so it's still very mystical, but it's an Aquarius um, solar eclipse. And Aquarius, our community, our progress, our technology. Um, so something about the mystical and how we bring that into our communities is starting our crazy year off. And then we're going to have, let's see, where did it go? There it is. So then on March 3rd, we have our lunar eclipse in Virgo. So it's switching from Aquarius to Virgo. And then in the autumn, it's Pisces, lunar eclipse, mind you, and solar eclipse in Leo. So it's flip-flopping between the changing signs. And I think the nodes change. Oh my goodness. Let's see if I can see it on the ephemeris. The nodes change in July. So if anybody here has north or south node in Leo or Aquarius, your nodal return starts in July. And I don't think, does it go back? No, it doesn't go back into Pisces and Virgo. So yeah, those who have Aquarius or Leo, north node, south node, Danny is one of those. Um, You'll have a nodal return or nodal reversal starting from July this year. Okay, so the other important thing is the Saturn and Neptune conjunction at the zero Aries world point. We've already done a hot takes on that with more information. We're going to do another one for people who didn't get a hot takes on that because this is such an important moment. And we might not see it in February 2026, but it could be this 100-year era that begins at this point that we might not even totally see in this moment. I think we'll see something because it's pretty spectacular. But remember, we had a preview. Both Saturn and Neptune moved into Aries already in 2025 in the late spring and into the summer. And then they moved back into Pisces together. So we had this sort of preview moment. They didn't conjoin together like they're going to in 2026. They didn't have an exact conjunction, but we've had a preview of it. And a lot of chaos in the world. this spring and early summer. So I expect we'll see some of that come in again. And then in April, we have Uranus moving into Gemini until 2031. Uranus moved into Gemini earlier this year just for like a minute to give us a taste of what that looks like. But it won't move in there fully until April. And then it will be there until 2031. So we've been dealing, and we also did a Uranus and Gemini hot takes where we talked more about this astrology and what it means for people. If you want to go further into detail, because when in 2025 all the planets were changing signs, there was a lot of changeable energy coming in. And right here where we are in December, let me go back. Oh, where did I put it? I don't think I put it in here. Where we are in December now, Saturn and Neptune are back in Pisces. Uranus is back in Taurus. And so we're kind of having like this, oh, we know what this feels like moment right now. Whereas like summer was like, oh my God, where are we going? And then we went backwards and we're like, okay, I kind of get what this is. So that's not so bad. But then it's going to be like, oh my God, where we're going again from spring of next year for sure. In June is not too bad. For like May and June are not too bad. May could be very interesting depending on what this Uranus Pluto trine looks like, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. Um, but May and June should pretty much be pretty open for like restful time, moving things forward. Things should be like working properly for making plans. It's like a window where like or like okay, this is where we can get stuff done. The Mercury shadow does start June 13th. So this is, the second, the into the third week, into the third week of June is when we're going to start seeing stories that will be revisited by this Mercury retrograde through August 7th. So if you have any bookings or plans to make that are, bigger purchases or bigger travel plans or bigger business plans or bigger launches, think about May and early June to be able to move those forward. Then we have our very exciting Jupiter transit. Jupiter changes signs every single year, but it's extra exciting for it to be moving into Leo this summer in 2026 because Jupiter in Leo it puts out a show that's like a Hollywood star. And because Pluto's in Aquarius, as soon as Jupiter moves into Leo, it's going to be opposing Pluto. So this is going to be a conflict of power, bloated egos going head to head as Jupiter enters Leo. There could be a major conflict between two ridiculous opposing views of what power and control are. On the bright side, Jupiter in Leo can bring us heroes. It can bring us stars. It can bring us people that we look up to. And it can give us a great sense of confidence and courage and personal power. So think of Jupiter, planet of expansion and good luck and things getting bigger. And Leo is the heart. It's courage. It's showmanship. It's being in the spotlight. It's confidence. Um, so because we're having, remember, Saturn and Neptune at the early degrees of Aries, fire sign, and then Jupiter moving into Leo, fire sign, there's going to be this trine between Aries and Leo of fire trine. So we're going to have this fire trine, and then we're going to have the air trine of Pluto and Uranus. So this is why 2026 is the year of fire and air. We're moving away from our two planets in Pisces, Saturn and Neptune. Pluto's already moved out of Capricorn this last year, finally, and Uranus is nearly done with its time in Taurus. So water and earth were getting hit quite a lot. Um, you know, 2020 to 2023. And then the shift started happening in 2024. And now we're going into a new, at least brand new, fresh kind of energy for a decade. And probably more than that. We're probably starting a hundred year new cycle of something. We want to take a look at Independence Day in the USA. This is why I say the USA chart is activated because Mars enters Gemini and conjoins Uranus on July 4th, on Independence Day. So remember, Mars is the planet of war. Uranus in Gemini has previously in the US chart been when we had the Civil War and the Revolutionary War. So it was, brothers. First it was British brothers fighting each other. Then it was American brothers fighting each other. Um, Uranus is disruption, though. So on the other side of Uranus and Gemini, there was freedom, there was expansion, there was an evolution in the way that we interact with each other in community and in brotherhood. But this could be a date for conflict and accidents because Uranus is accidents and strange things. So if you're making big plans for the 4th of July, have, escape plans, emergency routes, have an extra fire hydrant on board. And it doesn't mean anything bad can happen. Mars conjunct Uranus and Gemini could also be a light bulb genius moment. This is like when Tesla discovered electricity does something. I don't remember what he did, but it's like a genius moment where like, oh my gosh, I've just figured out quantum theory or how to invent a new machine that uses zero energy. So we could also be looking back on July 2025 in a couple years when, these new inventions and stuff get their patents and productions and blah, 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 and be like, oh, July 2025 was when this brand new technology actually came into being. So that is something to look out for, is just I would not like do something really risky on July 4th. Maybe the risky thing you're doing is the Mars conjunct Uranus and Gemini and it's fine and brave. But I think knowing the astrology and especially if it's directly aspecting a difficult point in your chart like Saturn or Mars to proceed with extra caution. And then at the end of July, the eclipse nodes will move into Aquarius and Leo until 2028. So happy nodal return or nodal reversal to those Aquarius Leo nodes. And then we've got our total solar eclipse on August 12th. This is visible in Europe. It's happening more exact over Portugal and Spain, but it's the first visible solar eclipse we're going to have in the UK from like 30 years. So it's very exciting over here. And that'll be at 20 degrees Leo. So you always want to look at the degrees of where eclipses are happening in your chart because those are very pivotal, destined, fated shifts that occur in your life. And sometimes they're subtle and you don't notice them until later, but sometimes they can be wow moments. And a solar eclipse in Leo, especially, is the falling of a king. So eclipses in their mythology and history. I think we have another talk on eclipses as well, but they used to replace a fool for the king because they always predicted that the king would die if he was on his throne during an eclipse. And I don't know how many times this happened or whatever, but we have seen in the past during eclipses. For example, there was one eclipse during the Biden administration where on the eclipse day, Biden was having a surgery procedure. So for 24 hours, Kamala Harris was the director in chief. So it was that story literally happening of like swapping out the leader for the day. Um, and nothing happened to Biden, thank goodness. Like he was fine after that procedure, but like that's the example of like what that kind of event could happen. And here in the UK, I remember there was a solar eclipse where the prime minister quit, like on the day of the eclipse. So it can be a change in power, and especially in Leo. Leo rules royalty and kings. There could be a major change of power in August, and this is worldwide, but it will especially affect eclipses, especially affect the area that they are visible in. So this will be Europe and the UK, Portugal and Spain. Um, but it will definitely affect the rest of the world. And we have some important Leos that are in power right now. So we'll keep an eye on how they're affected by that too. And then during this August is eclipse season. So, anything is up for grabs in eclipse season. So plan and plot accordingly. Um, that doesn't mean you can't make plans, you can't do launches, you can't, do anything in August. It just means there could be redirections, cancel plans, rescheduling, something's not ready on time, something breaks halfway through your presentation. That could happen too. So then we have our Pisces lunar eclipse, and that will be visible in the Western Hemisphere. So everybody in the Western Hemisphere, if you stay up late enough, I can't remember what time it's at, but I'll share the links for what time all of these are happening in the replay. That will be affecting, the whole Western Hemisphere. Lunar eclipse in Pisces is emotional, spiritual, it's deep and intuitive, and it's right at the end of this lunar cycle. Remember, the nodes move backwards, so they end at 0. They begin at 29. They're the only point that moves backwards in the zodiac, other than retrograde planets, of course. And then in August, we've also got Venus's shadow period happening right at the end of August. So Venus retrograde in Libra, especially. So Venus rules Libra, and Venus is love, beauty, money, um, trade. So Mercury rules like merchants, like the actual like exchange and communication and like salespeople. But Venus is the like act of shopping or buying or, giving someone money for something that you value, placing a value on something. And then retrograde October 3rd. So retrograde all through October. Venus retrograde can bring up, especially in Libra and Scorpio, issues around relationships, intimacy. This has been said in many ways to be a flip-flop of the feminine and masculine energies this year because we're switching from earth and water, which are feminine signs, to fire and air, which are masculine signs. And Venus in Libra going into Venus in Scorpio, which is a masculine Libra to feminine Scorpio. There's this like back and forth between the feminine and the masculine and trying to find fairness and redirection in there. So Venus retrogrades can often be like revisiting a contract or renegotiating some terms or having a review of a relationship or of something that you value in your life. It could even be very practical, like how you spend your money or how you're budgeting or how you're spending your time and your resources. It can even be a short period. Venus retrograde can be a short period of you being really into something. And then once it goes direct, you're like, okay, that was fun, but like I don't need to do that again. It can be like this little like visit into like some like new flavor of yourself, and then you're like, nah, I don't need that anymore. So if any beauty treatments are to happen, I do not recommend them during Venus retrograde periods. Uh, you might be inspired to dye your hair or cut some bangs, and then you'll just have to wait for it to grow out or wash out if it's not something that you love. So, um, I actually, when Venus went retrograde in Aries back in 2016, I shaved half of my head for the Women's March. And I loved it. I felt empowered. But like by the time Venus was out of Aries, I was like, this is too much keep like I can't keep shaving my head. Like that's too much work for me. So like I did it and I loved it, but like it was not a hairstyle that lasted at all. It just kind of like came and went. Um, and then we finish up the year with our Mercury retrograde in Scorpio, which finishes thankfully before December. So similar to this year, we finished up out of the shadow period November 29th, I think, so a couple weeks ago. Um, so it's a similar schedule as we had last year, except last year it was going between air and water, or was it water and fire? I can't remember. It was between two different ones. Yeah, water and fire. It was between water and fire in 2025, but now it's all in water. There's no crossing over signs. So watery Mercury retrogrades, very introspective, very much reviewing our memories, our sentiments, our looking back into the past. Water holds memory. So water is ancestral. There could be a lot that's just coming up from the past, like deep in the past. That's happening during these Mercury retrogrades. Sometimes with water, it can be slippery to get hold of what those details are. So if it is a money thing, I have all my money stuff in water signs. It can be really hard to like get a container around what your money is doing or where it's going or what's coming in and out like, if Mercury is retrograde in the water signs. If you have it in your like daily routines and career, then you just have to like flow a lot more. You have to be a lot more adaptable. There's going to be a lot less certainty around what's going on in that watery stuff. You could also just have a lot of emotions when Mercury is retrograde in the water signs. You might be revisiting memories or situations from the past. You're like, oh, I thought I was done with that, but now it's coming up. And just know that like stuff does come up, but you are moving forward, even if it's coming up again and you don't want to deal with it. So this is a very brief way of giving you an overview of the timeline of this year, meaning January, you can move forward. May, you can move forward into June, and then December. So you'll have a breather in December if like everything else is just like, oh my God, too much. Thankfully, this just coming up December 2026, we don't have a lot of that volatile energy that we have in the middle of the year, in the spring and summer and in the early autumn. So those are things to look out for. In Chinese astrology, it's the year of the fire horse. And the reason why I wanted to bring this up this year is because it starts with the solar eclipse in Aquarius on February 17th. So the Chinese astrology starts with the Lunar New Year, and that Lunar New Year in 2026 starts February 17th. Each animal also has its home element, and horses' home element is also fire. So the year is a fire, the horse is a fire, and it's yeah. So this goes perfectly with the themes of like things moving fast, initiating new passions, everything like it's like, okay, burn it all down, let's start over again, or new frontiers, like big fire energy is like discovering new lands or new technologies or um hopefully not burning too many bridges, but that's absolutely a possibility, especially if someone deserves it. Um, so the Chinese astrology is really aligned with how the Western astrology is actually looking in the elements of the chart too. This year, 2025 is a wood snake, I think. So it's a big year of shedding. That 9 year is a year of shedding skin. And wood is an element of like chugging along, getting stuff done, chop wood, carry water, like the motivation to just like keep carrying on. Okay, what else I got here? Okay, so I pulled up the chart for the Aries World Point on February 20th. So February, guys, the last 2 weeks of February are just like unhinged. They're wild. But this is the actual chart. Saturn and Neptune meet at 0 degrees 45 minutes of Aries. And we also have Mama Moon blessing this conjunction. So the moon is in Aries when that conjunction is forming. So we've got this extra boost of like this 2.5 day transit that is firing up this Saturn-Neptune conjunction even more. So you'll notice the sun will be in Pisces, the North Node will be in Pisces, Venus will be in Pisces, and Mercury will be in Pisces. So there's a lot of this Pisces energy, which could still mean there's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of fog. It's still kind of mysterious what the heck is happening, and the opportunity for detachment or spiritual insights. So it could be that something big happens on the world stage, and we're all just kind of like, again, we're exhausted. Like, we don't have the energy to deal with this. But within the coming weeks, Mercury, Venus, and the sun will be moving into Aries, lighting up that conjunction as well. So even if on the day or on the week of February 20th, we're kind of like, do we really got to go through this right now? Like, we will be fired up at the beginning of March and through March. Um, and into April. So April, March and April is like when this is getting real lit up. And we've got Pluto's moving faster at the beginning of the year, so it's getting to 4 degrees. Uranus will still be in Taurus, making its final trip through Taurus, which it will leave again in April into Gemini. So we don't quite have um, this trine yet. It's a light trine between Pluto and Uranus, which we'll look a little bit more at as we go forward. So, and we've still got Jupiter retrograde in Cancer here. So it's still very slowly making its way through Cancer. It'll move into Leo in the summer of 2026. And so all of the planets here are in Pisces and Aries, bringing up all of these topics we've been working on for the last 2.5 years with Saturn and Pisces. And then it's going to change. Everyone's going to be lit up through the spring. It just might be a bit confusing and like, what do we do? Like at the beginning, like the end of February. But yeah, it'll be very interesting. So these are the important things to know at that time when these things are happening. And if anything like pops out to you, like, oh my gosh, my sun is at 12 degrees Aries or 22 Aquarius, like those things are kind of interesting to look at with your natal chart. Okay, the other major thing that is happening this year is we have this ongoing Pluto, Neptune, Uranus minor trine. And like I said, it's out of alignment during that February 20th conjunction. But we can see we had our first one here, 20th of August this year, 2025, with Pluto at 1, Saturn and Neptune having just entered Aries, and Uranus having just entered Gemini for the first time. Now remember, Uranus, Neptune, and Saturn have retrograded this year, so they are back in Pisces and Taurus for the moment. But this was the first time that they made this aspect, and this aspect is very closely being connected through to June 2027 and even beyond, I think. I have an article I'm going to link in the replay to share with you that like how long these planets are actually traveling together at the same speed. So June 2027, so this is, a year and a half from now, they're going to meet at 6 degrees of their sign. So 6 degrees Aquarius, 6 degrees Aries, and 6 degrees Gemini. That's when that close to exact minor trine is happening. The reason why it's a minor trine is because Uranus and Pluto are in air signs, and Neptune is in a fire sign, so it's sextile. Neptune is the sextile between this trine of air. If they were all air, it would be a grand trine. So, what does this mean? I think it means major innovations in technology and in how we set up our communities and how we create both sovereignty and connected collective progression together. And I know that sounds really vague, but in air signs, we've got Pluto, the planet of transformation, and Uranus, the planet of surprises, disruptions, etc. This could be a moment of brilliance, of a huge leap in technological advancement. Let me just check this real quick. Okay. I think aviation, aviation hasn't changed much in the last 50 years, and I think actually the industry will change quite a lot in the 2020s and 2030s. Um, and then of course there's the blueprint of conflict. So air is mental, it's the swords, and Aries is fire, it's energy, it's passion. Um, and I always think of the Wild West because when Pluto went through Aries, it was like the Wild West, like the discovery of a new way to set up colonies, a new way of becoming a sovereign success on your own terms, with your own way of doing things. But Aries can move fast and start a lot of things and not finish them necessarily. But Pluto in Aquarius, in that fixed sign, should bring some longevity to whatever is created within these signs. So I'd be really interested to hear what you kind of think could be coming up. Our first sort of aspect was definitely, this AI revolution that's coming out. And we're trying to figure out how to navigate our resources with that. We're trying to figure out how to navigate the truth with that. Um, and trying to figure out what human means through that and what authenticity means through that. And Aries, the early degrees of Aries has no space for anything but authentic action. This is no bullshit right here. So I think that will be very interesting to watch. Again, this is exact 2027, but every chart that you look at in 2026 is going to have this kind of signature within within a 5-degree orb because some of the planets will go retrograde and move forward and go forward. So they'll be in this minor trine all through 2026. So this is a major theme that's happening for the whole year. That's going to color every transit and every retrograde and every eclipse that happens this year. All right. We have 5 minutes for questions if you have any. And the more general astrology they are, the better, because I'm sure you're like, what does all that mean? And I hope that astrology can kind of give you a sense of the timeline and the themes. Um, I don't have any psychic predictions about what any of this means. I'm sure you can hear all kinds of astrologers give their insights, depending on what their specialties are. I've heard everything from aliens to galactic beings to Atlantean technologies, and I'm just, you know, fine, whatever, but I'll just wait till I see it. Um, think closer to home when you're thinking about what the transits might mean for you, because you can't control everything else in the world. Um, if we have an economic crash, we're going to deal with it when it comes up. If there's a war that breaks out, we can only like move forward like one step at a time as we have information. We can't prepare for everything, and we don't want to be like catastrophizing everything. This is a year that has potential for incredible brilliance and insight and creativity and passion that a lot of people haven't had since 2020. Like we've been in kind of this death and decay slump since the pandemic. And this year is invigorating to say the least. It'll definitely wake a lot of people up and bring a lot of newness into the picture. And we'll be talking about it all through 2026. Moonday Musings will be back hopefully January 5th. That's our plan at the moment. And we'll have some hot takes events and more astrology study clubs. Lunar's feeling the energy, feeling excited. I'm feeling it a little bit too. I mean, my physical energy is really, really low, but I have like this like thing in my heart of like all these things that I'm excited to work on. So I'm like letting myself really winter and sleep and restore so that I can actually take some of that new creative fire and do something with it next year. I'm also at a 29-degree progress Scorpio sun. I don't know if you know what that means, but it means I'm at the death end over the next few weeks of a 30-year cycle that I'm going to be restarting a Sagittarius cycle in 2026. So I'm very excited about that. I don't know what that's going to look like. All right. And of course, if you have any questions in that witch school, you just leave them in the replay comments. And my last slide is just to say thank you and goodbye. I will be posting this replay up tonight within the next few hours with some written out notes and references that you can look at. I have so much more that I can't wait to share with you, but I wanted to give you a quick overview so that you could start plotting out if you have anything big coming up in 2026. Thank you so much for joining this evening. Well, evening for me, midday for you. And we'll see you again soon. Thanks, everybody.